Acid-base balance is the result of processes that carefully regulate hydrogen ion production and elimination. Body fluid pH is a measure of the body's fluid's free hydrogen ion level. Keeping the pH of the blood within the normal range is important because changes from normal interfere with many functions. After this lesson, you will be able to describe the relationship of acids and bases in the human body, understand and analyze the role of bicarbonate in the blood, compare the role of a buffer in conditions of acidosis and alkalosis, compare the roles of the respiratory system and the renal system in maintaining acid-base balance, and in subsequent lessons interpret clients' arterial blood gas values and formulate a plan regarding results. In this lesson, we're going to discuss the basics of acid-base balance, and in future lessons, we will discuss abnormalities of acid-base balance. So, our first topic is going to be acids. Carbon dioxide is a potential acid that's easier to just consider it the respiratory acid. Acids are substances that release hydrogen ions when dissolved in water. An acid in solution increases the amount of free hydrogen ions in that solution. The strength of an acid is measured by how easily it releases a hydrogen ion in a solution. A strong acid, such as hydrochloric acid, separates completely in water and readily releases all of its hydrogen ions. A weak acid does not completely separate in water. It releases only some of its hydrogen ions. Okay, so now we're going to discuss bases. A base is a substance that binds free hydrogen ions in a solution. Therefore, bases are hydrogen acceptors that lower amount of free hydrogen ions in a solution. Strong bases will bind hydrogen ions easily. One example would be ammonia. Weak bases bind hydrogen ions less readily, and one example of a weak base would be bicarbonate. Even though bicarbonate is a weak base, the many bicarbonate ions in the body are very important in preventing major changes in body fluid pH. Buffers are critical in keeping body fluid pH at normal levels because they can react either as an acid or a base. They either release a hydrogen ion or they bind to a hydrogen ion. How a buffer reacts when dissolved in water depends on the existing acid-base balance of that fluid. Think of a sponge excess in hydrogen sponge soaking up hydrogen ions. When hydrogen levels are decreased, the sponge is squeezed to release the hydrogen ions. There are many different buffers in the body, both extracellular fluid and intracellular fluid. Extracellular fluid buffers such as carbonic acid and bicarbonate. Intracellular fluid buffers are phosphate buffer system. Blood buffers are plasma proteins and hemoglobin. Deoxygenated hemoglobin is a better buffer because it has a greater affinity for both carbon dioxide and the hydrogen ion. Bones are also a buffer. The carbonate and phosphate salts in bones act as buffers and can provide a long-term supply of buffers. It's used most commonly in chronic metabolic acidosis that is often seen in renal failure. Okay, let's discuss acids in the human body. What is the most common acid? The most common acid is carbonic acid, H2CO3. Okay, so where does carbon dioxide come in and how? It comes in through carbon dioxide and hydrogen ions. When excess carbon dioxide is produced, the amount of carbon dioxide increases and leads to an increase in free hydrogen ions in the blood. In plasma, under normal circumstances, there is a 20-to-1 ratio of bicarbonate to carbonic acid. If this ratio is altered in either direction, there is a proportionate change in pH. So what is the most common base in the human body? Bicarbonate HCO3. The regulation of pH balances by the kidney and lung functions. The kidney function is a slow but powerful response. The lung function is rapid but is a limited response. Because the kidney is controlled by bicarbonate levels and the lung controls carbon dioxide levels in the healthy person. pH is also described as the function of the kidneys divided by the function of the lungs. Acid sources are carbohydrate. During metabolism, it forms carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is exhaled by the lungs during breathing. The process that determines pH is how much carbon dioxide is produced during metabolism versus how rapidly that carbon dioxide is removed by breathing. Okay, so let's discuss glucose metabolism. Incomplete glucose metabolism occurs whenever cells metabolize under anaerobic conditions, which forms lactic acid, while protein breakdown forms sulfuric acid. Fat breakdown forms fatty acids and keto acids. And then we have cell breakdown, which allows the cell contents to be released. Some of these cell structures contain acids. Bicarbonate is the primary buffer even though it is a weak base. It is kept at a level 20 times greater than carbonic acid. It comes from the breakdown of carbonic acid, intestinal absorption of ingested bicarbonate, pancreatic production of bicarbonate, movement of cellular bicarbonate into the extracellular fluid, and kidney reabsorption of filtered bicarbonate. To keep free hydrogen ion level of the extracellular fluid within the narrow range of normal of 7.35 to 7.45 for arterial blood and from 7.31 to 7.41 for venous blood, the body has regulatory mechanisms. These mechanisms are chemical mechanisms, respiratory mechanisms, and kidney actions for acid-base balance. The key mechanism type and key characteristics are provided for you in Table 14-1, page 200 of your textbook. Review this table. Chemical buffers are the first line of defense against changes in the amount of free hydrogen ions. Think of sponges again. Chemical buffers are composed of chemicals or proteins. They are paired mixtures, usually a weak base and an acid salt. Protein buffers are the most common buffers. Some examples are albumin, globulins, and hemoglobin. The respiratory system is the second line of defense. Breathing controls the amount of free hydrogen ions by controlling the amount of carbon dioxide in arterial blood. Carbon dioxide increases, which triggers the brain that results in hyperventilation, a deep, rapid inhalation, which is a process to exhale carbon dioxide quickly from the lungs, and the amount of carbon dioxide in the extracellular fluid will decrease. Carbon dioxide decreases, which triggers the brain that results in hypoventilation, a slow, shallow respiration that decreases the loss of carbon dioxide from the lungs, retaining more carbon dioxide in the arterial blood. The kidneys are the third line of defense against wide changes in body fluid pH. Kidney movement of bicarbonate is the first kidney pH control action. It occurs in the kidney tubules by movement of bicarbonate produced elsewhere in the body and movement of bicarbonate produced in the kidneys. If hydrogen ion levels are high, bicarbonate is reabsorbed from the kidneys back into circulation to help buffer excess hydrogen ions. If hydrogen ion levels are low, that bicarbonate remains in the urine and is excreted. Formation of acids is the second kidney pH control action. The urine will have excess of anions causing a negative charge fluid drawing hydrogen ions into the urine binding to be excreted into the urine. Formation of ammonia is the third kidney pH control action. Formed during normal protein breakdown, converts into ammonium. It's secreted into the urine, combines with excess hydrogen ions to form ammonium. It traps the hydrogen ions and able to be excreted in the urine, resulting in loss of hydrogen ions and increasing blood pH. Okay, compensation is the process of compensating, and what it happens is the body adapts to attempt to correct changes in blood pH. There are two forms, respiratory and renal. Respiratory compensation occurs through the lungs, usually to correct for acid-base imbalances from metabolic problems. Kidney compensations results when a healthy kidney works to correct for changes in blood pH that occur when the respiratory system either is overwhelmed or is not healthy. You have to remember that both compensation processes, sometimes compensation is only partially met. This concludes this lesson of Basics of Acid-Base Balance. If you have any questions related to the course content, contact the instructor.